Something is happening in the Saint Lucian economy. Over the last few years, people's relationship with work and business has changed for the better. That is the assessment of consultant economist Hamilton Stephen.
There's something happening in the economy, something that generates optimism, that increases confidence, and that causes people then to go out and seek and secure employment.
The traditional sectors are still leading the growth surge.
And certainly direct employment in the construction and tourism sectors would have contributed significantly. But on the labor market side, I believe the expansion has been largely in construction employment and in things like transport and communication. And these can be linked right back to the real sector in terms of related to tourism, in my opinion.
However, with major government investment in the youth economy and micro, small and medium businesses, could St. Lucia's economy be turning away from being reliant on big business?
What we are seeing is a significant diversification within the supply chain. So we are seeing a significant growth in domestic suppliers. So whereas certain things may have been sourced directly from abroad, we have a growing body of domestic suppliers feeding into that tourism supply chain in particular, and also other related chains.
A few decades ago, the National Insurance Service of St. Lucia was facing a crisis of sustainability. There were not enough young subscribers to pay for the pensions of a growing number of older registrants. But this year, the NIC has scored a record number of registrants. Economist Hamilton Stephen says that even though St. Lucia's population is aging, the growing number of new registrants points to something good happening in the economy.
Actually, they're correlated, so that the rise in population only partially explains the rise in new NIC registrants. Remember, population growth does not automatically result in an increase in NIC registrants. It would contribute to the increase in the labor force, okay? But NIC registration requires some deliberate action. So you actually have to register, whether on account of new employment, you're self-employed, or you're making a voluntary contribution. So in fact, I believe it is more on account of the labor market dynamics.
Stephen explained that while the reality of the situation in St. Lucia is that employment is higher than ever, there are other factors driving growth.
We know for sure that number one, employment is at an all-time high. Unemployment is at an all-time low. But more importantly, there is a category of workers that is typically referred to as disillusioned. They may have stopped seeking employment. Remember, in order to be considered unemployed, you must have attempted to secure employment. I believe it is in the past 3 months or so. So if you stop seeking employment, you're no longer unemployed. So what we are seeing now is that a number of persons who may have dropped out of the labor market at the heights of the COVID, during whether it was 2019, 2020, 21, we know that the economy contracted significantly in 2020, 25%, depending on which estimates you examine. So the labor dynamics surrounding the recovery would have actually drawn a lot more people back into the labor market. So we also have that reduction in the number of persons who are not seeking employment. So we have more people employed and more people are seeking employment.
Economists worldwide have noticed that the COVID pandemic changed people's relationship with work. The pandemic sparked entrepreneurship, but it also expanded savings and caused remittances to dwindle. There may also be a sense of increased optimism since the pandemic shutdowns ended, as well as other factors.
So that includes the economic recovery, increased optimism. People may have expended their reserve funds, their savings during the COVID, so that in order to, rebuild those buffers, people get back into the labor market. People who were not inclined to seek employment before. So now we're seeing that category, and it's a very interesting one. Is at an all-time low.
The record low unemployment figures are having a ripple effect on pensions, benefits, and even on the NIC's ability to support other agencies like the Saint Lucia Development Bank. The only downside is that St. Lucia's population is slowly aging, and that could spell trouble in the long term.